let's get some insight into the internal workings, the technical issues relating to how to deliver the elections. Perhaps one of the most experienced person to have worked in INEC. He worked as a director legal. He worked as the director of public affairs at INEC. A very seasoned lawyer also, a very senior one at that. Mr. Osaze-Uzzi is live for us virtually from Benin City. Thank you so much, Mr. Osaze-Uzzi, for speaking with us tonight.
Thank you, Shiva, for having me. Yes, Joe. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Retired but not tired. Let's learn from you tonight. 837.7 billion naira. That is a proposal of INEC to be able to execute the 2027 election. What do you make of that figure?
Well, the truth of the matter is that I am a bit removed from INEC, and I don't know the breakdown of the figures, but let me put it this way. Elections are a very expensive venture. How
some technical glitch there. Well, not exactly the one INEC said the other time, but this time around, internet-based glitch. Because as of today, we do not know what the nature of the technical glitch INEC experienced in 2023. But Mr. Osaze-Uzzi is back. If you can backtrack for a few seconds, you were frozen technically, and we could not hear you.
Yes. I did say that when we look back at the budget for the 2023 elections, I don't think there's been an exponential growth in what is being presented for the Assembly now. I expect National Assembly to look closely at it, look at rate of inflation, look at how scrutinize the breakdown to ensure that there's efficient utilization of an allocation of resources for everything they need. Hopefully, we'll get it right with the logistics, a good budget for logistics, for training, for technological innovations in the system. All these have to be taken into consideration. So I don't think it's a fantastic figure.
If you look at the figures, Mr. Osaze, I don't know if you can hear me. If you look at the figures, 873 billion is what INEC is asking for just for the 2027 elections. They're asking for another 171 billion for 2026 operations. You look at what INEC got in 2023 to conduct that election. INEC at the time said they got about 313 billion naira. And I'm asking, in that, is it inflationary effect, or what could have, or is INEC projecting the advancement of technical or computer-based or electronic-based introduction into the election? Or what do you imagine could have exponentially? This is more than double of the almost triple of the budget that the INEC got for the 2023 elections.
Yes, you're quite right. I think it's maybe 220, 230% higher than what they got 4 years ago. So let's put that in perspective. We know that the inflationary trend has been very, very high. The graph has been quite high. So that is obviously a factor which you alluded to in your introductory remarks. A lot of these things, companies of these things are going to be imported. And we do know the value of the naira compared to the euro, to the dollar, to foreign currencies as of 4 years ago and what it is today. That, I think, is a big factor. Lots of the things that are going to be utilized are going to be imported. Wages and allowances for training would obviously have improved. And cost of materials generally has been quite growth has been astronomical. So I without holding brief for INEC, I don't know how they arrived at the figure. We'll probably go ahead, we'll study that breakdown and see whether it's reasonable. I think the most important thing is that we get value for money. That's the most important thing that we should be looking at. And if you put it, dollarize it and say, look, how much was that budget in terms of dollar, the dollar rating 4 years ago, how much it is now? I don't think you'll see too much of a discrepancy.
I don't know, why are we thinking in terms of dollar? Maybe because we had to do a lot outside of this country. And those who are also asking, INEC should localize the production of everything it is doing. INEC sometimes we say security, lack of capacity in printing and all of that. We see how much of logistical nightmare it could be for INEC to get some of these things done. But give me an idea, Mr. Uzzi, with your knowledge and experience being in INEC for several years, what item takes a larger chunk of the budget for an election?
Yes, well, Nancy, let me say you're quite right that in previous years, previous cycles, INEC has printed a lot of materials abroad. I think part of it is capacity. In previous cycles, we tried to partner with the INEC tried to partner with the security and minting company, but things didn't quite work out. They couldn't meet quality and deadlines, and even they went abroad to print some of those materials that were contracted to them. So you recall in 2007, there was when Atiku Abubakar was excluded from the presidential race, INEC had now to procure materials from, I think, South Africa, from abroad. And they couldn't even serialize the ballot papers because there just wasn't enough time to do that. So printing of materials, I think, before I left the commission, a lot of that was now being done domestically in Nigeria itself. I don't know whether in 2027 whether materials are going to be printed abroad or not, but the quality of printing, the availability of quality printed materials has improved considerably over the years within that. So this domestic capacity has improved tremendously. So that is that. Logistics, hire of boats, hire of transport takes a big share, and then training and retraining and the purchase, of course, of equipment, software licenses. These are all the things that take a lot of the funds committed to the elections.
So you look at it for what, and the lawmakers were asking, especially Senator Seriake Dixon, whether or not INEC has captured the amendment of the Electoral Act with the assumption of possibility of transmission of result electronically. But INEC, I'm not sure, is able to answer that question. I don't know why. But from your own knowledge, and there is a white paper, remember that it was co-chaired by Dr. Mustafa Lekki. And this conversation around electronic transmission of result was a major one. You know what happened on the floor of the House in 2022. I didn't know that some lawmakers had the capacity to box or to fight taekwondo, but I saw a bit of the ability of some of our lawmakers. If they take to boxing, they will be winning gold medal for Nigeria. We saw that play out in 2022 because of the Electoral Act amendment. And seriously speaking, and I'd like to ask you, with the capacity of INEC, and you may hate or not like or whatever, dislike the former INEC chair, but on the aim at technological advancement, well, which is supposed to improve our electoral process. But the question that a lot of Nigerians would like to know tonight from someone like you, Mr. Uzzi, is whether or not INEC has a capacity to transmit election results electronically.
Should INEC be the body responsible for answering that question? But let me speak as at 2023, prior to 2023, there was more than 93% or 97% coverage of the country from the figures we got from the Nigeria Communications Commission, the NCC. Although you remember in 2022, just for the 2023 elections, the NCC was asked to come along with INEC to the National Assembly to defend their respective positions. We thought there was capability from our own, what INEC had done, what they had done, said there was capability to transmit. There are very few blind spots. They exist, no doubt about that. And especially when there's an overload, there's a problem for transmission. But I think that in 2023, INEC was able to transmit, especially the National Assembly elections, was able to transmit results, not real time, quite honestly, but within a very good time, within reasonable time. So if in 2023 it could do that, I'm surprised to hear now that this debate going on as to the capabilities 4 years down the line. I think I thought networking coverage has improved, services are better. No doubt there'll be some technical glitches, there'll be some black spots and challenges, of course. But I think over the last 4 years, the things should have improved. So that ought not to really be the debate, if you ask me, quite honestly. So, and especially now, there's no talk about even those 2-3% that could not be covered. There were moves to find different ways, technical solutions that could assist the commission in doing it. And in any case, you know that even if the result is not able to transmit from every 176,000 odd polling units, once you start going towards the collation center, I think every local government area, 774 local government areas of Nigeria, as of that time, had coverage. So, the closer you get to those centers, then you are more likely to get coverage, and whatever data is in the system will automatically upload once coverage comes. So I don't see why we should be having this debate at this time. It's diversionary. There are lots of things that are going out of it, and we're losing sight of other important areas we should also be discussing.
So, I mean, it makes no
sense.
I'm
going to add. I read somewhere, I'm not a technical person, so I don't pretend to be one. Starlink has coverage over Nigeria, and so there's some of those blind spots. Perhaps there are technical ways we can overcome some of those challenges. And I know that Starlink cooperating with other service providers within the country. I don't see that as a big challenge. No.
You don't see the possibility of hacking using another nation where we have internet domicile in another country, giving us internet oversight for our election? You don't see that as a problem?
Look, the truth is that in anything technological, once you go online, there is the problem. Nobody can doubt that. But you will not say because of that, you will not take that leap. You must have to do that. At what stage do you think you'll get 100% coverage and then you're going to start it? If you wait for 100% coverage, it means you're not ready for transmission. And let us reason this thing out. Why are we so dependent on electrical transmission? It is because of the interference, right? Interference in the manual process of doing things. Technology is not a silver bullet that will cure everything, but at least it allows for more transparency. You can actually see these things, and there's less, not impossible, there's less human interference, and where it occurs, an audit trail will be used to say, okay, this is where it happened, these are the people responsible, and things like that. And don't forget to have a hybrid system. We can still have, depending on, there's still the ECHA. Results are still going to be carried manually from one position to the next population level. And so we don't lose straight. And we are able to compare the whole essence. Even in 2022 Act, if you compare what is transmitted from the polling unit with what is brought to the collation officer by the presiding officer or the next level collation officer, and ensure that they tally, they should tally, they match. That is the essence. One audits the other.
So invariably, it makes no sense, this argument and the fear, real time, simultaneously, electronics. That argument makes no sense because technically we have moved forward. Is that what you're saying? We have advanced more than 2023 and nobody should have any fear. Is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't use the word say nobody should have any fear. Of course they have fears, there are concerns, and we should ensure that whatever concerns there are addressed, but not to go back, not to take. We've taken one step forward. We've taken several steps forward leading up to 2023. So don't take us back to the pre-2019 position of things. Let us look forward. Let us look at how we can address the things. And part of the problem is that, yes, technology has issues. The glitch that was referred to by the Commission in the 2023 transmission of presidential representatives was a lost opportunity. If we could address that, I think some of these issues and challenges could possibly have been addressed and assurance given to the public. The public believes in it. The National Society of Engineers, the technical people have come out to say, well, the fears of the National Assembly, particularly the Senate, are not can be addressed. They shouldn't be feared. So once those technical people who know better than we laymen have come to say that, I have faith in what they say. I do.
Legally speaking, and as a senior lawyer, Mr. Uzzi, the amendment to the Electoral Act, if I'm living with the House of Reps version, because that is one version that makes a lot of Nigerians happy, The Senate version seems to give a lot of people worry, giving some kind of discretion to INEC officials on the field to determine whether there is network. Then you'll be able, it just takes your mind back. Mr. Uzzi, you remember we discussed issue of incident forms, and a lot of people, legally speaking, and those who have institutional memory about our electoral progress and history, we know that those were dark days of our elections, which nobody wants to go back to, where you give discretion to one person who takes an action, and at the end of the day, it goes a long way. You remember in Ambode's election, Nyesom Wike's election, these are fundamental issues that were raised in the courtroom, and a lot of governorship election issues of incident form in Kano, in a lot of states in Nigeria, were raised. So those who are asking the question whether or not if as that when this law is passed, electronic transmission is allowed, will the IREV material or record be tenable as a primary evidence for any litigation that comes after the election?
Yes, as I think you've captured it very well. And as you were speaking, it's almost deja vu. We've been here before, you know. It said that discretion is a source of a lot of corruption. Once you give somebody discretion, he now chooses to exercise that discretion one way or the other. And from our past history, we see that some untoward things happen for them to exercise discretion in your favor. Just to enlighten your recall the incident forms you mentioned. What are incident forms? Incident forms say, look, the card reader doesn't read everybody's hands. If you're a manual laborer, your example who's used to holding markers and chalk and things like that. So if you turn up for an election day, we shall allow you to vote. So what would happen that if it 2 or 3% doesn't read your biometric circumference, then you will be given an incident form, the form to fill. That is called incident forms. Now the incident form, which was to ensure that nobody is deprived, everybody who had the right to vote is deprived from voting, now became the source of abuse. Rather than cure anything, like every other thing, you try and find a solution to something, not to deprive eligible voters from voting, and now that becomes source of abuse. So you find more people going with the incident forms than actually using the card reader, so that made almost useless that card reader. That's why the beavers came in, so that by more different ways, if you can't capture your fingerprint, they will capture your facial recognition. So we'll try to improve the process and the system. Now, once you give that discretion, by the way, I'm not so sure I totally agree with the House of Reps version, but it's better than that of the Senate. It's much better. The proviso in the Senate version now says that if there is no coverage, attempt to transmit and there's no coverage, who is to determine that? How do you audit that? How, if a presiding officer comes and say, "Oh, I tried to and I couldn't," there's no network. How are you going to validate that? No way. So it's just another incident form kind of a metaphor that you are going to use to allow abuse of the system. The primary thing should be that electronically transmitted. And because while we are amending this act, all the things are referred to in the Electoral Act of 2022. But the Supreme Court in the decisions of Peter Obi against INEC and Atiku against INEC said, look, this thing is not entrenched in the law. Then the INEC guidelines are all right, but INEC guidelines are not, they're inferior to the law. If you want this thing, then you should entrench them in the law, put them in the law so that they now become part of the law. The issues of IREV, transmission and proof that there's transmission, there's, the words of transfer, transmission, but now it will be articulated in such a way that the primary source for collation of results and is the transmitted result. That is so critical. Of course, there'll be an audit trail. There has to be an audit trail, and you can always use the ECSA, the physical copy, to see and to ensure that what was transmitted is also accurate. So, but the primary should be that, not the manual transmission.
Mr. Oluwole Osaze-Uzzi, a senior lawyer and a former director at INEC. Thanks so much for your thoughts tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you again for having me.
I appreciate that.